was it like getting out there, with new personnel up front with you, just to feel the first day of camp?
I think a lot of guys at Echo that we felt like baby deer out there. Well, a few of us at least, kind of getting our feet back underneath us. Even with it just being a short break, 5 weeks, football is one of those things that if you get out of a routine, it is remarkable how much you have to pick back up and not so much reteach yourself, but reacclimate yourself with. So it was a great first day. They really took care of us, kind of easing us in, and still got some work done and a lot of things to improve on. So it's exciting, yet we got some work to do.
Sean said there's two kinds of players at camp, the guys getting ready for the season and the guys just trying to make it through the day. You must see that too while you're still trying to get your own work done. How do you kind of balance? Obviously they're going to look to you to help them with some stuff. How do you balance that?
I feel like, me personally, if you look at yourself as a guy who's not fighting every day to establish themselves as the person, it's a what have you done for me lately business. And there are some guys who feel like, and I'm sure Sean might use this, feel like they have deeper roots here. It's going to be harder to get out. I think for all of us, taking it one day at a time, being forthcoming with information for younger guys, and just kind of transparent and with each other, and as well as between coaches and players. Not so much on where they stand, rather in regards to just how to get better every day and ride the ebbs and flows, which is training camp.
Mitch, what are those first few weeks like of training camp where you guys are just rotating through so many people on the offensive line, and you yourself are a part of one of the anchors in there for a lot of that?
I think it's just, in season, you want to have a definitive answer to a lot of stuff, right? But the fluidity of it through training camp is just kind of understanding that guys are going to get different looks, not only to see where they best fit, but also just get some reps there so that when they're thrown in preseason or whatnot, that it's not kind of a foreign entity to them. They can just kind of go in there and do their thing. So understanding who's next to you. And then also it's just time on task. I think that's a great thing, because as much as training camp sucks, to be honest, for a lot of it, there's some real benefit in time on task, repetition, getting your body calloused, and also just getting repetitions with different guys to understand that, if we do work with someone that we weren't expecting, or if someone comes in, that it's just kind of a smooth sailing deal and that it is not this huge bump in the road.
It's been a while since it happened, but the extensions for Brandon and Sean, just the continuity within the team, what does that mean to y'all as players?
Yeah, I think around here, someone gets paid, this is well deserved. And I think as players, to be honest, is one of those things that I looked at and was like, okay, and then left. It was just one of those things, like kind of in a course. Yeah, that makes sense, and then roll off with my day. It took about 5 seconds of my life to think about it. But I think that's a testament to the fact that that's not some big shock, right? That these guys have, are Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills, and talk about deep roots. These guys have them here, and they deserve it.
In other words, you got.
You know what? It was one of those things that I was just hanging out with my kiddos. I saw it, and we rolled.
Now, a lot of talk on the outside about the competition at right guard. How do you guys see that heating up over the next several weeks, and how have you seen those guys kind of vying for that position, work through it mentally and physically over the spring and the first day of camp?
Yeah, I think it'll play itself out these next few weeks. Right now, I wouldn't put too much into who's playing where. It's really just guys getting repetitions, right? Like trial by fire, especially for a young guy, is the greatest way to grow in this game. Even for vets, competition breeds better football players. And so right now we're just trying to get guys in competitive environments so that they can put their best foot forward, so that when those opportunities present themselves to establish themselves as, that's one of those starting fives, that it's kind of a clear and concise thing rather than some up for grabs deal that doesn't make sense to anyone.
On the other side, what do you see in Connor McGovern, and what do you think about he's a veteran, so developing chemistry with him?
Yeah, I think Connor is very talented football player. One that was brought in because not only can he physically do the job, but also he's very adaptable mentally, understanding that this is a very different scheme from him, from Dallas. He was very forthcoming with that, but that hasn't hindered him in his learning or his ability to make these kind of amendments to his game. He's been able to really kind of go with the flow. We're all learning how to work with each other, but he has done such a good job of kind of taking what the coaches have said, compounding it, condensing it to how it just resonates with his job, and going from there.
Mitch, what do you think the improvements that this team need to make offensively?
Well, I think communication is one of those things that is always something that you can continue to grow on no matter how long you've been in the game with someone or been working with someone. I think when you also look at not so much the running the ball more, but people have, they've been, this is a kind of a talking point that I think I heard someone say, and it reigns true, is that when we do run, we have to make it count. And we have to sprinkle it in, and we have to be efficient with our runs to kind of correlate or complement our pass game. So, and then when it's a passing down and we know the blitz is coming, pick it up and kind of give Josh some time to not run for his life every so often.
Mitch, last year against the Rams, I think the 5 you had out there, you maybe only got about a week's worth of practice together before that game. You talked about identifying those 5. How important is it to try to do that as soon as possible so you can get as much work together as possible?
It's a double-edged sword because you want to give guys opportunities to prove themselves as the top 5, but you also want to, once you establish that, get those guys working. I think that's why it's so important to, in training camp, plug and play different dudes at different positions. And I think the job for you guys is to not read into that too much until who's out there week 1. Guys getting reps in training camp or guys getting reps in preseason. There's a method to the madness. It's very calculated, and when those 5 are established, we'll make sure to get the work done, and it won't be the first time we've all worked together.
Rich, not to get you don't have to get too far into detail on this, but did you find the teams did play you guys a little different as the season went on? They got a little more familiar with Ken on film, as the way he calls plays, because Josh has spoken even about maybe the second half of the year didn't go so smoothly. Is that maybe why? Did you see some of that?
Sal, it's a good question. I don't know. I think that there's some of that in every team, right? Tendencies, such a big thing is breaking those tendencies and also adjusting your game plan and seeing what's been working well for certain teams. When you play teams later in the season, you have kind of an understanding of their identity. That being said, I think we did a good job of finding those tendency breakers and trying to stick with those. At the same time, could we have done some stuff differently? Yes. I think in the offensive line room, we could have just doubled down on our technique and protected better at times. As simple as that. I'm not going to point the fingers except ourselves.
You mentioned communication is something you need to improve offensively. With so many members of the offense being together for so long, is that maybe a higher level of concern this year, communication, or are you mentioning that just as something that's a concern every year?
It's a concern every year. Good question. I think it's something that evolves every year. Whether it just be changes and little nuances in the offense or just kind of self-scouting, not in the professional sense through the team, but through yourselves and kind of not mitigating, but kind of working that between players and understanding like this is something that I can do to kind of abbreviate the time or to, trying to get something going. So it's an ever-evolving thing that you have to fix every year.